Well, welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. It is so nice to have you guys on with us as we do show number 135. Our conversation with Matt Booth from Room 101 Cigars. We're brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Avenue in Houston, in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. By the way, just wanted to mention before you pop the top on this, that little bumper music we used there was from the Suffers, a very, very good band based in Houston, Texas, that we've been to see. All of us have been to see several times. Really love these guys. They're awesome. They were playing a show in Dallas earlier this week. Someone broke into their trailer, stole all their equipment. It's one of those things you hear about it happening to touring bands every once in a while. And I'm just so bummed for those guys. So go to their website. I believe it's thesuffers.com or .net. And I'm sure there'll be something there if you want to be able to get involved and donate a few bucks towards helping them restock their equipment, because they're still a young band. I mean, they've been doing this for a while, but they're not like superstars on the level where they can just go, have the boys bring around some more instruments. Yeah, it's not going to be like that. Yeah. So anyway, that's a bummer, but we want to encourage you to support them because they're awesome. So, all right, Ian is about to pop the top on Dos Ron. Ooh, I like that. Ooh, we got a good one out of that.
That was awesome.
I like.
Do you like the scrunchy sounds right before it came out?
The scrunchy is great. So Dos Ron, this is a rum that I will admit that I picked up because I was looking for one that we hadn't tried, and it was one of a handful that we hadn't tried. That does tend to
narrow the
yes, no, it does because
the selection.
We've tried a number of, and there's not as many rums on my store shelf as there are, let's say, whiskeys. There's
I thought you were going to say there's not as many rums on your store shelf as there are at your bar at home.
That could also be true. Although, so here's the thing. So I bought this bottle of Dos Ron, and I took it home, bought it with the intention, of course, of bringing it onto the show. And it's Dos Ram. Carlos Morfa is the one who's quoted here. He says, "I dedicate this rum to my father and to your excellent taste." It is 16 years, age 16 years, handcrafted in the Dominican Republic. And if you wouldn't mind, Ian, maybe showing that to the beer cam, which is now
we're not going to put it on the beer can. We're go ahead. We're going to transform it
into a rum cam. Yes, but I want if you back it up so people can see the illustration.
We're gonna have
to, that's good. Perfect. So you back it up just a touch, and people can see there you go. Can see the illustration. There are clearly silhouettes of two guys in that circle, right? So I'm assuming those guys are both named Ron, and that's why the rum is called Dos Ron. But Ron, I believe, is actually means rum in Spanish. So I don't know if it means two rums. I don't know. Maybe someone can help me out with this. I didn't find a lot of information about Dos Ron. However, I bought this bottle. I bet about a month ago, and I brought it home, and it just turned out we had a lot of guests lined up on the show who were bringing, whiskey, or we were live at B&B Lemon doing cocktails. So we didn't have need for me to bring anything from the home bar onto the show for a while, and sometimes I get impatient and want to try something. So I opened this bottle up. My wife and I tried something. This became my wife's new favorite rum, and she not only enjoyed some of it herself, but anybody that came over, she was like, "Oh, you got to try this rum." I had to go back and buy another bottle to bring on the show. So
if you are not a fan of a buttery vanilla and slightly astringent fresh cane sugar flavor, then you'll absolutely hate this rum.
Well, what if you do like those things?
If you like those things, it is incredibly buttery vanilla.
It really is.
It is so
very flavor forward,
smooth. And you know how when you have something with a big pat of butter on it, just kind of coats the tongue, and that buttery flavor lingers there. This
if you had a really buttery biscuit or piece of bread that just really had that.
Yeah, this leaves your tongue with that butteriness and a little sweet. And if you've ever had fresh sugar cane. Like if you ever chewed on a piece of sugar cane, there's a little astringency to it.
It's got
it's a little woodiness to it that this also has, and it's very good. And what's funny is a 16-year-old and that cane sugar tastes super fresh in here.
Yeah, it really does. And I wanted to point out that the heat is almost like 3, 4, 5 seconds after you swallow.
Back there, right?
Way back. Yeah, it's not just like heat on the finish. It's like the finish. You go, wow, that was good, and then here comes a little bit of heat.
You get a whole secondary idea to
let you
think
know.
About.
Yeah, to let you know that you just had a rum.
It's got a lot of oiliness to the mouthfeel, which I like as well, because that just helps spread that flavor around a whole bunch. This is fun. It's got fun flavors. It's a mellow flavor, but it's not dark flavors. The flavors in this are a little brighter than you'd expect.
Yes,
overall.
I agree. A lot of times with rum, you're thinking about those darker, more more barrel aged type flavors.
I think rum. I think there's a lot of brown sugar flavors in here, which this doesn't have as much as that brown sugar that you expect.
Agreed. It's more like the pure sugar cane.
That vanilla and that sugar cane are so like, and they're so stark. Sometimes it's harder to divide the two flavors because they're blending so well. These are actually very separate and stark.
Agreed.
And I bet this with a little bit of ice, like once it gets cold and a little bit of water in it, just becomes absolutely amazing.
This is the most aged expression of the Dos Run I've seen. I think they have one that is an 8-year or 10-year as well. Have not tried that, but this is...
So the other interesting thing is I didn't get this on the front of the palate. It actually took me this many sips to figure this out. You know how a lot of spiced rums, like if you've ever had Goslings or, a lot of those that are very like...
This is
very
not a spiced
rums.
Yeah, this is not a spiced
when you
rum,
open
though.
it, you have that spicy rum flavor right there in your face. This gives you a little bit of that back on the very end of it and it took a few sips and it took a little bit of build up with the aftertaste and the heat coming back to where on the retro hail I get a little bit of that kind of traditional spiced rum flavor. Now this is not a spiced rum, but there's a little bit of that happening kind of in the retro hail.
I hear you.
That's really interesting as well.
I'm also, after several sips, picking up a little bit of banana.
Yeah. And molasses are coming up a little bit, but not as heavy as you'd expect.
Well, this has gone into rotation at the home bar. I can tell you this.
I can definitely see that happening. This is quite the enjoyment.
Yes, very, very nice.
And a little bit easy, almost too easy to drink.
Almost too easy to drink. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I knew immediately when I tasted it that my wife would like it. It tastes a bit like she loves the plantation pineapple. This reminds me a bit of that, but without the pineapple infusion.
Right.
You know, almost more so than the regular plantation.
Also, as smooth as this is, I can see why you put it in front of our last beer, which is a barley wine. I was wondering about that, and I was going to mention it at the end of the last segment when you said, we're going to try the rum next. I was like, okay.
The barley wine, and I've not tried it, but it could obscure all things that went before it.
Well,
it's entirely possible.
The Firestone Walker, their barley wines are legendary. They're so good.
Yeah, and even though they're primarily known for their IPAs, for Luponic Distortion and some of the other things, and also very, very well known for that, what is it,
805.
805.
So good.
Love that. Talk about
So
lighter
good.
beers coming to the fore.
Yeah, absolutely.
That beer is all the rage in California.
Yep.
All the rage. So Sammy Hagar has released details of his new tequila, which he created in partnership with TV chef Guy Fieri. And it's going to be launched next month, and it is called Santo Frito Blanco. Now, Guy Fieri is one of those guys, and I know you don't watch so much TV, but Guy Fieri is one of those guys, people either love him or hate him. Like, he's that guy. He's a little loud,
it's
little
funny
boisterous.
you say that, because I think he's okay.
Yeah, I kind of like him myself, but some people just think he's totally not a chef.
I've eaten at actually a few of his restaurants.
And?
Outstanding. outstanding.
Well, there you go. I like flavor, and he's big into flavor.
The braised
so
rib,
that does it for me. Yeah.
Oh man,
that does it for me. Well, he's hooked up with Sammy Hagar. Guy, Sammy says, has always been a tequila lover, and so he approached Sammy about creating a tequila together. It was perfect timing, and they have made what they call an old world style tequila with 100% blue Weber agave. There are a few things I know: great food, killer drinks, and wild times, Guy Fieri said. And Sammy and I are making it happen with Los Santo. So looking forward to, by the way, Sammy's longtime distiller collaborator, Juan Eduardo Nunez, who selected the agave plants in the Jalisco Highlands of Mexico that go into this. He's the guy that helped him do Cabo Wabo, and he's the guy that helped him do the rum that Sammy has out now as well. So it seems like maybe they're in good hands. I know some people are really, not into the whole celebrity thing.
Spirits.
But Sammy was doing that with tequila way before every celebrity.
Sammy was way
before every
mark
celebrity
on that.
had a thing. So so we're going to at least give him the benefit of the doubt. Now, Bob Dylan, I was surprised that Bob Dylan was doing a whiskey, to be honest with you. I really was. I'm one of those people, the way I am about Dylan is I'm not necessarily a fan, but I acknowledge his genius. That's kind of like, and when I say I'm not necessarily a fan, what I mean by that is I don't generally go home and put his records on.
I love Dylan on a song-by-song basis.
Yes, that's
and
a good
a
way
lot
of
of
saying
times someone else singing his songs.
Well, his Nashville whiskey distillery will open next year, along with an on-site performance venue. Heaven's Door Spirits LLC is the name of his signature line of whiskeys. They're out already. We've tried one of them on the show. I did get a kick out of the name. I thought Heaven's Door was pretty funny. But they're thrilled to announce the celebration of the opening for next year. And it's going to be a destination point if you're headed to Nashville.
Nice.
So I am really curious actually to try, and it's funny because this is how I am. Like, I'm really curious about trying some of the others, like trying the bourbon or trying a couple of the other iterations. But sometimes when I'm standing there in the aisle, like if I'm going to buy a whiskey, it's just really hard for me to go to buy another Bob Dylan whiskey,
Right.
Instead of trying maybe something else that I haven't tried. So as of yet, I haven't gone and bought another one to bring in and drink on the show. Maybe you're right. Maybe if anybody knows Bob, they should tell him to.
Yeah, they should send us stuff because the problem is, like, we don't get to try everything. We have to go buy it.
Right.
And that's not cheap.
But hey, smoking and toasting, directly influencing sales.
Absolutely true.
That's the way we like to do it.
Absolutely true.
We are going to take another quick break. We're going to come back with this barley wine we've been teasing. It is a Firestone Walker 2019 Sucaba Vintage, the Barleywine Ale from Pasa Robles, California. That's coming up, plus 15 fascinating facts about Cuban Cohiba cigars.
15 fascinating facts
15
featuring
fascinating
Cohiba?
facts, yes. If you can say it really fast, I'll get you a Cohiba.
15 fascinating facts featuring Cohiba?
That wasn't fast enough. We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Isn't that a lovely red?
Agreed.
On the beach in Hawaii.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. We are so thrilled to have you on board with us for show number 135. Thanks to Matt Booth for being our guest on the program today via the Houston Whiskey Social, which we had several weeks ago, which we were able to sit down and talk with Matt, and that was awesome. We want to also mention special thanks to our guest from last week, Jared Himstedt from Balcones Whiskey. Jared was a great guest on the show, and he sure brought some great whiskey. Oh my gosh. Woo-hoo, baby.
All you guys that are regular tuning in, by the way, Brian and Zachary and my wife and everybody else. Man, thank you guys for tuning in. Please share this out as far as you can.
We appreciate it. We're brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant, 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and in the shops at Clear Fork and Fort Worth. We do hope to be there for next week's show. That is the current plan, and I apologize that I didn't kill my phone, so I just killed it now.
It's very important that you get that last call for your new your car warranty.
Oh, yes, that's right. You know, my car warranty is about to expire.
Either that or you have been selected by Hilton Suites.
Well, listen.
That's the other one I keep
Let me
getting.
just tell you, Ann from Account Services, she calls me regularly.
Oh, nice. She likes you.
Yeah, she likes me. Cohiba, in a few decades, went from being a private label brand for Fidel Castro to becoming the most recognizable sought-after cigar in the world, up there with Dom Perignon Champagne and Patek Philippe watches. Cohiba is now synonymous with luxury goods, and for the most part, according to the article, and I'm quoting in Cigar Aficionado, it lives up to the hype for the most part. Cuban Cohibas tend to score very well in their blind ratings, and the Cohiba Bejique BHK 52 was even named the Cigar of the Year in 2010. So here are 15 facts about Cohiba. I knew some of these. Others didn't seem like that big a deal to me. Several I was like, whoa. So I thought I'd share this. The first is that Cohiba actually means tobacco. It's easy to say, rhythmic almost, and it is the word for tobacco in Teño, the native language of Cuba's indigenous people before the Spanish conquest. So I did not know that. So it actually means tobacco. So it makes a lot of sense. It's actually fairly new. As far as Cuban cigar brands go, Cohiba's pretty young. A lot of the Cuban brands you see today were privately owned before the revolution and then subsequently nationalized, but not Cohiba. It was created in 1966 after the revolution, especially for Fidel Castro. So Cohiba itself has nothing to do with old Havana, but it is quite symbolic of Castro's Cuba and an icon of the revolution itself. Cohiba actually happened by accident. This is fact number 3. The way the story goes, these were cigars made for Fidel Castro's chief bodyguard, and on a whim, Castro fell in love with the smoke and ordered more of them, making it his personal cigar of choice. The next thing is that for many years, you couldn't buy Cohiba. The only way you could get one is if Fidel Castro himself gave you one. The cigars were selectively doled out as diplomatic gifts to dignitaries, heads of state, or anybody that Castro thought worthy of such a splendid smoke. At that time, the mysterious cigar came only in one thin size, the Lancero, the 38 ring gauge, 7.5 inches long cigar. Isn't that fascinating? Our buddy at Stogie's, Jorge, would love that.
Yep.
He's a fan of the Lancero. Eventually, though, you could buy one. Cohibas didn't become commercially available until 1982, and even then you could only buy them in Spain. They came out in 3 commercial sizes. Then they came out in 4 lines. The core line, the Siglo series, the Maduro line, called Maduro 5, and the Bejique series, the BHKs. The Siglo series was created to fill a gap. In case you didn't know, by the way, Davidoff started out as a short-lived Cuban brand. What does this have to do with Cohiba? Once Davidoff's production was moved to the Dominican Republic, Cuba had a gap to fill, so the cigar industry came out with the Cohiba Siglo series in 1992.
And I like the Siglos.
Yeah, the Siglos are great. Officially called a Linea 1492, the Siglo series of cigars match some of the sizes previously found in the Davidoff line. So the Siglo 1, for example, is the same size as the former Davidoff Chateau Haut-Brion. The Siglo 2 and the Siglo 3 and others mirror other Davidoff sizes.
They weren't as imaginative on the naming.
That's
of
right.
Sizes.
Cohiba's mother factory is in El Leguto, which is the big yellow mansion in Havana's Leafly Miramar section. The plantations are secret. Very few tobacco plantations in Cuba produce tobacco that is distinct enough to be used for the Cohiba brand, and Habanos Tobacco does not say which farms actually make the grade. So it is an actual secret which farms the Cohiba tobacco comes from. Isn't that interesting? I thought that was interesting.
That is pretty wild.
Another fact, you probably smoked a fake. Rembrandts are faked, Stradivarius violins are faked, Louis Vuitton handbags are faked,
Cohibas
are faked. Yeah, because they became such a sought-after luxury product, they are more counterfeited than any other cigar brand in the world. Cohiba.
So the question is, how do you know if you smoked a fake?
Well, I think you can probably.
I think we have an old episode on how to spot a fake.
I think we do, as a matter of fact. That's good. And by the way, one way you know that you probably didn't smoke a fake, if it knocked your socks off.
Yeah.
That's probably good. The Cohiba name is still in litigation. It's the lawsuit that just won't die. See, General Cigar started selling Dominican Cubas in the U.S. back in the 1980s, and since then there have been lawsuits, counter-lawsuits, appeals, numerous hearings, contradictory rulings back and forth, and litigation that's gone on for decades. Now, when you see the Cohiba, that's the red dot Cohiba.
Right.
That is not the Cuban Cohiba,
Right.
of course. That's the Dominican, or I think now they have a Nicaraguan blend as well. But,
Which is also a great cigar.
Actually, it is.
Yeah.
A very good cigar.
The only thing I don't like about them is they're expensive.
And by the way, so are Cuban Cohibas. The band design has evolved drastically. It's gone from the simple dots and lettering to today's technologically advanced anti-counterfeit holograms, as they try to be a little more proactive about stopping the whole counterfeiting thing. The Cohiba is the only commercialized Cuban cigar with a 60 ring gauge. When it turned 50 years old in 2016, it was commemorated with a special humidor that sells for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And within that humidor are 50 Cohiba 50 Aniversario cigars, 7 inches long with a 60 ring gauge.
Ooh, that's a beast of a cigar.
Cohiba came close in 2014 with the limited edition Robusto Supremo, which was a 58. But so far, the 50 Aniversario is the only commercialized Cuban to reach a full 60 ring. Finally, 2 more. It is Cuba's most expensive brand. Cohibas are by far the most expensive regular production cigars sold around the world. In the UK, a Cohiba Robusto retails for about £34.30, or that's about $45 US. In Canada, that cigar would be around $70 Canadian, which is about $52 US. So that's an expensive cigar.
That is.
Bahiques are even more, some prices surpassing $100 per cigar American in some markets when and if you can find them. Finally, there are no cheap Cuban Cohibas. Discount Cohibas do not exist. Demand far outstrips supply, and the wholesale costs of Cohiba are just too high for anybody to offer them at a lower cost. If they're cheaper than usual, they are probably not real. Stop looking for a bargain. It's an exercise in self-delusion, and you'll only get burned and feel foolish in retrospect. Rather than wasting your energy by trying to save a buck, they suggest to try finding a reputable dealer instead. They suggest the La Casa del Habano franchise shop. So there's your 15 facts about Cohiba.
Yep, my only complaint is the price.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's really hard. It's really hard to justify, I think, the price of those when you consider, even as good as they are, how many great Nicaraguan cigars or Ecuadorian cigars or how many could you buy for that same price, and how much smoking
I will tell you
enjoyment
this:
could you
one of
get?
the best cigars I've had is a Padron 45th anniversary. Outstanding cigar, $30 for a cigar ish, worth every penny. Amazing, like that thing is amazing. Now I've smoked 2 in my life,
Right. Again,
because they're $30 a cigar.
So Ian, let's break into this final beer.
If we can go over to the formerly known as the liquor cam, we'll go over to the beer cam.
It's now a beer cam once
Right,
again. Thank
and
you
it
very
is
much.
actually in the process of rotating on its incredibly evenly rotating platform, which doesn't look like my fingers turning it from the top out of camera at all. Yes.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
all right. Ooh, you didn't give me cups. So
I
just
didn't.
have to drink it out of the bottle.
I think I need. I'm falling way behind here. Here we go. Let's try this.
These are not red Solo cups.
No, they're not. Now, while you're doing that, let me read from the back of the box. Our brewery began, this is Firestone Walker Brewery, in 1996 when we delved into the rare art of fermenting beer in oak barrels. So it's interesting because I think of Firestone Walker as being very IPA driven, but their brewery began when they started fermenting beer in oak barrels. So the IPA wasn't the first pass of what they were doing. Fascinating. In vessels inherited from bourbon houses and other spirits producers, ever since, the resulting beers have flown under the banner of the Proprietors Vintage series, which has become one of the most extensive barrel aging programs in the craft industry. As always, the 2019 vintage of Sucaba delivers big, boozy bourbons and American oak aromas combined with soft chocolate malt undertones. Complex malt flavors are framed in oak with hints of dark chocolate, vanilla, toasted coconut, and a touch of dark cherry.
You can smell this across the room.
All right. They say it's a beer built to last and one that will reward careful cellaring for years to come. We highly recommend counting the years with an abacus. Cellar in a cool, dark place between 45 and 55 degrees. Now, obviously, I didn't cellar this at all. I bought it this week.
Right.
And we're trying it right now.
Which is probably still going to be, I haven't tried it yet, but it's probably still going to be outstanding because I've had a few of their Sucaba expressions.
I said abacus. That's what threw you off.
Abacus. Abacab, right? That's a Genesis song.
And you know where the title came from, by the way, for that song?
No.
It's about the note progression. A, B, C, B, A, C. Or abacab. I probably didn't do that right because I can't.
A, B, A,
I had a brain fart. But abacab, yeah. But it's about the note progression, yeah. Okay, Ian, talk to me about one of the most interesting and complex barley wines I've ever tasted.
Well, I haven't tried it yet.
Oh my goodness! I actually tried this before
savoring this moment.
Oh my goodness!
I've had the Sucaba quite a few times. I've had many expressions. As a matter of fact, I had a 2016 that stayed in my refrigerator until early or late last year when me and a friend of mine kind of went half and half on it, and I told him I'd save it for him. I find it interesting that you said you didn't keep this one as cold as the other ones. It actually says serve at 55 degrees, which is substantially warmer than you would expect a lot of beers to be served at. That's in the neighborhood of like what they suggest Guinness to be served at.
Yeah, it even says here cellar in a cool, dark place between 45 and 55.
Right.
So they're even recommending that for cellaring. So
this is awesome.
It really is good. I mean, if this were the first barley wine I ever tasted, it would ruin all other barley wines.
This is what I love about barley wine here. This barley wines are so big, and this actually is a little less. The
mouthfeel is not quite as thick as some others that we've had.
Right, a little less viscous than I would expect overall in the mouthfeel. The carbonation is perfect, though. It's the right amount of little bubbles just to give it a little interest on the tongue. It dances a little bit, and then it's gone. There's a ton of mashed date flavor going on in this.
What I would say about this, and again, you're much more of an expert in this style of beer than I am, but what I like about this better than almost any barley wine I've had, certainly better than any that I can think of at this moment, is the balance of the flavors. There's a lot of barley wines that I've tried. The flavors are great, but let's say the dried fruit flavors will be dominant.
And by dried fruit in here, you mean dark cherry.
Dark, yes, absolutely, yeah. But those flavors might be really dominant, or you might get a chocolate flavor that's really dominant, or you might get a I don't know, some of the other sort of chunkiness that will come through with these flavors are so well balanced that none of them leapfrogs the other. You find your palate just kind of taking them all in like at almost the same level, like a really well-blended cigar.
Yes, imagine this though, the very tail end of the palate on this. It tastes like an incredible graham cracker crust that's been burnt just a slight amount.
Just a slight amount, the way you like it.
Yeah, yes. I mean, this is raisin and date and malt right up front. This is that dark cherry bitterness following up, and a little bit of that burnt graham cracker going on. I mean, and the whole thing is layered with a coat of that like powdered chocolate.
Now, admittedly,
Like, it's
Ian,
so good.
admittedly, I have not tried. I think nearly as much as you have in this particular area, barley wines. But I'm going to tell you, hands down, this is my favorite that I've ever had.
And this is not an American style barley wine. This is definitely an English style barley wine.
Yeah, it's just absolutely delicious.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like they nailed it with this one. And I can't even imagine, because barley wines are one of the few styles of beer that do improve potentially with age.
Yes, with age.
So it would be really interesting to see what this would be like down the road a little ways.
You bought like 5 bottles for that, right?
Oh, no, I bought the one. I've got to go back like on the way home now. But it's really, really good.
Yes, this is outstanding.
It's really, really good.
Interestingly enough, though, every time I've had it before, it's been in a bomber, and you brought this 12-ounce bottle out.
Well, and interesting, I don't know
and
if
it's
we
in
know,
the same packaging that the bomber was
Yeah,
in,
I
except
don't know
for
if-
smaller.
I don't know if we showed that to the camera or not.
Hold on,
but
let me put it into the beer box cam.
I
here.
was actually walking down the look of the aisleway at Specs where they had the big bombers and saw this at the end of the aisle, all by itself.
Uh-oh.
I think you messed up the camera there, Ian.
Did I
don't
kill
know.
something? There we go.
Oh, there we're back. Okay. Yeah, there you go. I love the fighting bear too.
Yeah. The
The fighting bear is
the best.
awesome. Fighting with the lion. That's Firestone
Well, and then there's
Walker.
both of them right there together. Yeah, so this package, I've never seen it in a 12-ounce size. I've always seen it in a bomber size, which is substantially
Well,
taller.
I find myself wishing I had bought a bomber today.
Man, that is
because
so
we would be
good.
drinking the rest of it for sure. Well, Ian, I got to tell you, I'll go on record. That's my favorite barley wine I've ever had.
Toasted coconut. I can go with that. That's,
Yes, you definitely pull that out.
I didn't pick that up. The oak. What does it say? Oh, Kenzie, you read this earlier. I wasn't paying attention to you at all.
as is normal.
Like, I know you're talking. I don't have to listen. Right? Oak, hints of dark chocolate, vanilla, toasted coconut, and touch of dark cherry. That dark cherry to me is so good.
It's fantastic.
Like, in there.
Yeah, it's
I didn't
fantastic.
pick up on the coconut until it
But
was
boy, I can
mentioned
sure
that the
tell now
dark
that you
chocolate,
mentioned
the
it. It's like,
vanilla.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's very impressive, and I just can't recommend it highly enough. And again, this is kind of like when you rave about an IPA.
Yeah.
Me raving about a barley wine is the same. Like, I enjoy it, I appreciate it, but it's not something I always seek out, and I will seek this
So
out.
good.
And I will buy more, and I will enjoy it very, very much.
If you need a refrigerator, store it in.
Do you need a place? Do you have a place in mind?
I have one.
I have a feeling you're going to be good.
You know,
looking.
before I got married, I had a friend of mine. Did I tell this story before? I went over to his house and he showed me he got one of those little mini fridges and it was completely full of beer, and he was very happy. And I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And he goes, "You don't look very excited about that." I was like, "Well, I'm a bachelor. My beer fridge is this big." It's just
Yes.
I just call it a fridge.
That's right. I know. It is amazing, actually, how you have to begin to, ration space for beer in the refrigerator once you get married.
Well, once I got married, I rationed space for beer in my refrigerator by buying a second refrigerator.
see, you're a smart man. That's totally the way to do it.
It's known as the beer refrigerator.
And see, I just want to. This will be my last tip for you guys, because I believe in trying to do things to help people move forward in society as best as possible. If you only have one refrigerator, but you have a place for a second one, Craigslist.
Oh, yeah.
You'll be able to buy a used refrigerator for pennies on the dollar. It will work great, and it will house your beer, and everyone in your family will be happy. This seems like a good sort of a Zen-like place to end the show, don't you think?
It does.
It really does. Everyone in your family is happy, and you have a refrigerator stocked full of beer. Make sure to find a good place to cellar some of this, though, that's 45 to 55 degrees. Your beer fridge might be a little cold.
That's
for
your
that.
third beer fridge.
Yes, that's right. There you go. That's the way to do it. And you can buy one of the little ones for that and keep it, just, or depending on how much you want to sell them. Want to thank Matt Booth from Room 101 Cigars for being on the show today, for spending time with us at the Houston Whiskey Social and putting that segment together. He was a lot of fun to hang out with, and I'm excited to see what they have coming out later this year. Oh, you're just tasting the IPA again, aren't you?
Yeah. Quick update. The Tree Shaker Imperial Peach IPA. I think I like it better warm.
Interesting. All right, I'll have to try that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being a part of the show for 135 episodes. unbelievable. And I think we're far enough into the show that our critical review dude maybe isn't watching anymore, so I can say no one has stepped in and stopped it. Yeah,
Nobody.
one.
And for any of you out there entertaining the thought of donating to my MS-150 fund, that will be happening next weekend.
Okay, so
next weekend. So we got one more show before that happens.
Yep. And they can also do this by going to the New Potato and ordering beers. Right?
Absolutely. You go to the New Potato, order any Bell's beer. They'll give you a raffle ticket, which gives you a chance to win swag at the end of the month, and $1 of your purchase goes into my MS-150 fund, which goes towards multiple sclerosis, which is a good
thing. Yep, good thing to.
And I'll repost a link on the Facebook here soon.
You know how at the end of the show, I like to do we like to do the cheers.
Yes, sir.
Well, my cup is empty of the barley wine, and I was just wondering if you might be able
wine.
If you might be able to help me with the cheers.
How's Johnny going to taste this?
I know. You better leave a little for him. Thank you guys for being a part of the show this week. This has been a fun one. Show number 136 will most likely be coming to you next week from our sponsor location, which is B&B in Houston. Have a great week, my friends. Get some of this barley wine, but not until I get a couple of more bottles, just in case it's really limited. Have a great week. We appreciate you checking out Smoking a Toast, and
cheers.
Cheers. Oh, my God, this is good.
That is such a good barley.